Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I am joined by my friend Jeff Driever from Connective Computing, and we are going to talk about securing your data, both your data and your client's data, why it matters, and what you actually need to do to ensure that you are protected, especially in the health insurance space when there's PHI galore. Before we get started, if you have any questions, please type them into the question box and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. My information is right there on the screen if you'd like to get in contact with me. I am the marketing communications specialist here at Cornerstone, so I handle basically anything with a logo on it at Cornerstone. And I work with our brokers every once in a while on determining what their next best steps are for their marketing and what they want to accomplish for the year. So if you have any questions about that, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to do a little 30-minute consultation with you to discuss what you're wanting to do this year. Without further ado, I'm going to toss it off to Jeff Driever from Connective Computing. Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter. You can take it away.
Thanks, Jess. Good morning, everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about security. It's a big topic, so I'm going to try to touch on a lot of points and hopefully be helpful. So quick overview here. This could be a checklist for you to check these things off, things we're going to talk about, and let's go to it. First, though, I do want to talk briefly about, I'm sorry?
I can't see your screen just yet.
Why is that?
Did you get the prompt?
Oh, yeah, sorry. My bad.
No, you're okay. Perfect. Good to go.
Thanks, Jess. Okay. Now I figure out how to get back in. I don't do a lot of these presentations, so I do want to mention about data. There's a couple things to consider. There's your data. There's things about you and your business that you want to protect. And then obviously, I'm sure you all know, there's personally identifiable information and there's protected health information. And the folks in charge consider just about everything to be PII, personally identifiable information, even a street address, license plate number, all kinds of stuff that's, you could probably look up anyway. It's almost out there in public. But if you have any of that that's associated with anything healthcare related, medical condition, diagnosis, or something like healthcare policy number, now it becomes protected health information. And there are huge penalties potentially if that data gets exposed to the public. And the government will slap your wrist and stuff too. So those are the things we need to protect. I think the first most important thing is to have a good firewall. Firewalls have been around for a long, long time. The little graphic at the top shows how they originally worked. Basically, it was just a way to not allow anyone to come into your facility over the internet, but you could go out and get to whatever you need on the internet. And the way that works is if you type in a web address, you want to see a website, you're going to send a request off to that server out on the internet, and that server is going to respond back with that web page that you wanted to see. The firewall knows that you requested that, so it lets that response come back, okay? If there's a connection from the internet from somewhere that you're not involved with, it's going to be blocked by your firewall. So if your internet provider like Spectrum, whoever's providing your internet, they're probably going to give you some kind of router that belongs to them that you use to get on the internet, and it will have that basic firewall capability. Almost always. I do have a friend who plugs her home PC directly into her Spectrum device, and that computer is right on the internet. There's no firewall at all. And she's really in some danger of being hacked like that. And I don't know why. I don't know why I heard that. She probably should contact Spectrum about that. Anyway, that's a basic firewall. There are better firewalls that will also monitor that traffic going in and out, the things that you're sending, things that you're requesting, and scan them for viruses or known malicious stuff, malicious software they call malware. That is helpful. Today, for security, you need protection on a lot of levels, and having it at the firewall level is very good. Even the best firewall, that's not enough. If you had the very best antivirus installed on your computer, it's still not enough. You need the firewall as well. So the very best firewall, in our opinion, is the Cisco Meraki product, and that not only does what the diagram shows and blocks attackers from coming in from the internet, it also monitors your data in and out for viruses and malware, and it also looks for certain patterns, certain known threats. And here's the result of that. I'll just skip to the end of the story. It's been several years now. There was a worldwide ransomware outbreak. There were just tons of people who got hit with ransomware, where criminals came in, encrypted all their data, and then demanded they pay them thousands of dollars, or they weren't going to unencrypt it. Your data's just ruined. You can't use it. You can't get into it because it's been encrypted. Shortly after that, there was a second attack, huge scale attack of ransomware again. And it was later determined that it was targeted, I believe, at the Ukraine. It was a government-sponsored attack on a particular country. It's been a while. My memory's not the best, but I believe it was Ukraine. But it did go across the world. I think FedEx got hit with it here in the U.S., and others did too in the U.S., but it was mostly in Europe. But here's the point of all that. Everyone who had a Meraki firewall did not get infected with that ransomware. It blocked it. It blocked it completely. And knock on wood, our clients who have these Meraki firewalls have not been hit with ransomware. So that's something I would recommend. I had my expert look it up, and to get a cost estimate's about $1,900 to get one installed, and that's going to come with 3 years of support. It is a subscription product, so if you bought one today, it cost you about $1,900. And 3 years from now, probably cost you another $1,000. I think they're about $300 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. But it's constantly updated, day and night. When a new threat comes out, your firewall at your location is going to be updated almost immediately, and it's going to block that. So I'd highly recommend that. At the very least, you need that basic firewall with what you're doing. And if you want to make an investment in something a little more powerful, I'd recommend it. Blocking antiviruses and malware, you have to do it. As I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've all gotten fictitious emails that were meant to infect your system. That's how the majority of it comes. They'll tell you there's an invoice attached, and if you open it, it's going to infect you with a virus. But it can also come from like a USB drive or an external hard drive that you plug into your computer. It can come from a coworker who got infected somehow, and they're in the next room, and it's going to travel across your internal network and infect your computer. That happens. It could even come from your smartphone, especially an Android, but even an Apple, believe it or not, iPhone can get a virus, and it can infect your computer. So you have to have antivirus software. Now, Microsoft includes something called Windows Defender, and it is better than nothing. But there literally are free antivirus products out there that are better. They're rated higher. They block more viruses, are more effective than the Windows Defender. And last week, Microsoft revealed that there are criminals out there who are actively, right now I don't think it's been fixed yet, are using a security flaw in Windows Defender to install something called a Trojan that will let them go back later and control your computer remotely from wherever they are. And they often use that to attack other people. So the attack comes from your facility, not theirs. And the investigators will figure out pretty quickly that that's what happened. You're not going to get arrested for it. But they spread that all over the world, and now they have thousands of computers attacking someone all at the same time. They also use it to install ransomware later or to monitor what you're doing. It's a big problem. And here's the worst of it. This exact same problem happened back last November. They released a patch and stopped it, and now it's back again. So, and they'll patch this, and this will stop again too. But we recommend a product from a company called Trend Micro. They were started by a person from Japan, was started in this country, and then they relocated the company to Japan. So they're based in Japan now. Big presence in the U.S., probably bigger offices here. But the bottom line is the product's very good. It doesn't take a ton of your resources. It won't slow your computer down a ton. It's updated constantly, very quickly, and it works really well. It works really, really well. Passwords. You got to use a password. I've seen people have a laptop and they open it up and maybe it has their name. They click on it and they're in. There's no password. Put a password on all your computers. Put a password on all your accounts. And don't put it on a Post-it note and stick it to your computer. There's no point in having a password if it's right there. Not much anyway. NIST, which is a government agency, and I'll get it wrong if I explain what that stands for. They're not political. They're about technology. They've come out with some updated recommendations for passwords recently, and I think they're very good. Number one is use a passphrase, a combination of words. I gave the example, my dog's name is Rover. Something you can remember easily. It's long, right? They're recommending at least 12 characters in your passwords now. You can definitely go longer than that. Almost any system you could go quite a bit longer. In Windows saves your password on your computer. And if someone gets into your computer, there is like a database, there's like a list of passwords available you can download from the internet, and you can compare it to that encrypted password on your Windows computer. And you can basically look it up. It'll tell you, it's a search. It just runs through this process, and when it matches it up, now they know exactly what your password is. But it's huge. It's a huge amount of data, and it's for passwords with 1 to 8 characters. So at a minimum, use 9. If you use 9, you will protect yourself from that particular threat. And again, 12 is probably a good idea. There are different character sets. There's uppercase letters, there's lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. They're again recommending you use at least 3 of those. So at least 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, and then 1 number or 1 symbol. My example has that. I have a symbol, I have upper and lowercase. We could have all lowercase with a number in there also, just 3 of the 4. They're also recommending now that you set your password to never expire, which is a huge change from previous recommendations. And I've noticed I have some clients use Microsoft 365, and when they log in, or maybe it's when I'm working on their accounts for them, it pops up this recommendation, hey, you want to set your passwords to never expire? To me, there's some debate there, but for you, when you're setting your own passwords and things, I think you're fine to set it to never ever expire. When you first set it to these new recommendations, it'll take a little while, a few days, probably a week maybe, to get used to typing that. You've got it in your mind, and it'll be easy after that. And if you ever had a reason to believe that someone else got your password, someone sat there and watched you type it in, that you don't want to have your password, or for whatever reason you thought someone else might have it, then change it. And if that doesn't happen, maybe you can go for years with that same password. Finally, the experts recommend, I don't know if this came from NIST or not, but if you misspell one of those passwords on purpose, then a dictionary type attack where criminals using all the words in the dictionary to try to figure out your password, it won't work because something's purposefully misspelled. I have a password I set on an account that I wanted to be very secure. And when I was in college, I was a co-op. I worked in North Carolina for a company based in Canada, and an executive came down and spoke to all of us one day, the whole company, and he kept talking about something being out of warranty, I think was what he was talking. But he would say, oot. It's out of warranty. So I set a password recently, and instead of out, I used OOT, oot. Something simple like that could make it more secure. Here's what I do. Here's what I would recommend for you. Just create, okay, let me stop. Let me back up one step. There are a lot of experts out there who are telling you need a different password for everything. Every password should be different. I disagree. I have about 4 different ones that I use. I have a very simple password that I put on Facebook and Twitter and places like, gosh, there's certain websites they want you to create, demand you create a login. I'm not trying to pick on Staples, but something like Staples, if you want to order something, you may have to create an account there, right? And they want you to create a password. And if you're not saving your credit card in there, then who cares if someone logs in as under your account? It doesn't matter, right? So you can have a simple password for stuff like that. You need something that's secure when you log into your computer and your email. Going back to those recommendations I just looked over, just talked about, use that, and then use something, those same rules, but a different password for websites where you need some security. We order computer equipment, and we've got a credit line. You know, I don't want somebody to log into our account and order stuff, and then we get a bill for it later. We have to use a secure password on those sites. And then I have an even more secure password that I use for all my banking and financial stuff, my personal stuff. We have a different one for the company bank account. Those should be separate. So lucky you, you're in business, you get to create a whole other set of passwords. I will tell you, I use the simple password for stuff for work and for home because, again, these are sites I don't care if somebody logs in, gets in there. They're not going to get into my finances or reveal any personal information. But you do need, for your personal accounts, you need to have different passwords. And I actually recently heard about a security expert who at his home has a computer that he only uses for banking and bill paying, doesn't use it for anything else, for security reasons. He's not going to go search up a video or play a game on it. He's got a different computer for all that. So something to think about. I thought it was a good idea. I don't do that personally, but maybe I will. I think it's a pretty good idea. All the browsers will let you save your passwords for sites. Definitely don't save your secure passwords in your web browser. Anyone who could get into your computer can go in and look at those saved passwords and display them on the screen, see exactly what they are. And I certainly believe any criminal who could get into your computer remotely would be able to go in there and retrieve those passwords from your web browser. So you have simple or annoying websites. You want to save those passwords in there, go for it, but don't put your secure passwords in there. Don't save them in there. And yes, you'll have to type it every time you log in. It's kind of a pain. Most sites will save your username, so all you have to do is type in your password and you're in. It's not so bad. Finally, passwords. I have a friend, probably some of you know, and he was using a product called LastPass to save all of his passwords, everything. And all of a sudden, all of his accounts got hacked. People got into his bank account. I imagine he lost money. I don't know the details. People were getting into his email, or I say people, a person, someone was getting into everything. The only way I can see how they would have all of his passwords, they must have gotten into his LastPass account and been able to retrieve all of those. There are other password products like that that are maybe a little more secure than LastPass. I don't know. I just don't like the concept of having all your passwords saved online in the cloud somewhere where potentially someday some hacker could very well get in there and get all of that. I do think Apple's keychain is really well done. I don't use a lot of Apple products. My wife has Apple everything, and she wants a password. She can go look it up on her phone with her fingerprint or face or something. I don't know. It's authenticated. If you want to use that, that's totally up to you. But I would not save your most secure, like banking and financial passwords, even in the Apple keychain. I just think there's a certain amount of risk. Then there's also multi-factor authentication. Probably all heard of. You probably had sites that require it where you put in your password and then they want to text you a code and you have to type that in, or you have to prove it on your cell phone or something along those lines. I think it helps, but I've seen a lot of documentation on how it can be defeated, how people can hack around that. I've heard of people that it's happened to where someone has called them and say, hey, this is so-and-so from your bank. We got a question about your account. I'm going to text you a code. Can you read that to me? And people unknowingly do that. Well, that isn't at all what's going on. They're trying to hack into their bank account. When it sends a code, they get that person to give it to them, and now the hacker's in. So there's social, human, what the heck's it called, where you get the people to help you hack something. There's also technology ways. Right now, Google has a problem where there's a file, it's called a cookie, saved on your computer in your web browser. And if you have logged into Google and someone can get into your computer, a hacker, a virus can get into your computer and send that file to someone, that file can be used to log into your Google accounts, all of them, from anywhere in the world. So that's a big security threat. And the multi-factor thing I don't think will matter. To me, multi-factor is annoying. I don't really like it. But if you're storing files in the cloud, you probably need all the security you can get. And maybe that helps to have that turned on. But it's only slightly better than having a really good password. If you're storing data in the cloud, it can be accessed from anywhere in the world. China, Russia, lots of places you don't want people getting to that data. It is definitely less secure than storing it on your computer or a central computer in your office or something along those lines. And it costs more. Several years ago, 2020, 2021, something like that, there was a huge push to the cloud. Fortune 500 corporations were moving everything to the cloud, to Amazon's web services and to Google and to Microsoft. And what happened is within a year, more than 50% of the things that were moved to the cloud were moved back by these big companies, back to their internal systems. And the two primary reasons they gave were security and cost, because it costs more. You can buy Microsoft Office for your computer for I think about $200, $220, maybe it's $250, somewhere right in that range. And you own it. You can use it, I think, for 10 years, certainly for 5. Or you can pay Microsoft, what is it, $8 a month for Microsoft 365 subscription. If you're not a math expert, that's $96 a year. 5 years, it's going to cost you almost $500 instead of $220, $250. You're really better off to store things locally than in the cloud overall. I get there are certain work methods that it's beneficial to have things in the cloud where you can go here and work and then you can go there and work and you have access to the data everywhere. Totally your decision, but whether your data is stored on Microsoft's cloud or Google Drive, or if it's stored locally on your computer or computer at your office, it has to be backed up. If you look at your agreement with Microsoft, it's one of the things when you signed up for Microsoft 365, they told you you need to back your stuff up. What they have primarily is a disaster recovery system where if their cloud computers melt down, they can rebuild them and put everything back exactly the way it was that day. If you have deleted something and you realize a couple weeks later you really needed that, you may or may not be able to get it back through the cloud. It does keep version history, and there are some, historical backups, right? where you can go back. But if they have some kind of disaster, those may be lost forever. Then there's a larger threat of ransomware. If your computer gets infected and all of your files are being encrypted, so someone can demand a ransom payment, thousands of dollars, they will go and try to encrypt your Microsoft 365 files out in the cloud too. And you may need that backup, that full backup, to put those files back. There's obviously, like I wrote, you could have a flood, someone could steal equipment, and most likely someone could delete something on accident, an entire folder, a lot of things. You need a way to restore those things. Either way, you're going to want a backup solution. There are companies out there that sell a backup solution for the cloud in particular. And there's a lot of options. If you have locally stored files, you want to back those up. You can buy an external hard drive, a USB drive, and plug it into your computer and just copy everything over to it. You want to take it out of the building. You don't want to store it in the same building in case there's a flood or a fire or something awful. You don't want to lose your computer and that backup you just created. So get an off-site backup. So one thing I've seen mentioned a lot recently about protecting data is if you have something on paper, don't leave it laying out on your desk. Put it away. If you're not there using it, put it away in a drawer and lock it up if you can. Put it in a file cabinet or something. The other problem is if you use a laptop, like a lot of people do, or if you have a tablet or a smartphone that has protected health information on it, those devices need to be encrypted. The problem is if you lost your laptop, or if you're on your way home and you stop at the grocery and some criminal sees it through your car window, they'll smash your window, grab it out of the front seat, and be gone. And now your laptop is gone. If your hard drive is not encrypted, it can be removed from that laptop and plugged into another computer, and they can read every single file off of it. It's super easy, and you don't need a password or anything. So encrypting the hard drives, encrypting the storage on your device protects you from that exact crime. That's all data encryption does. When you're sitting there using your computer, you log into it, your drive becomes, they call it an unencrypted state, where every file is accessible, nothing is encrypted. So if you had a virus, it could be reading files off your drive while you're using it and sending them to China or wherever. Or if someone was actively in your computer looking around, they could see everything remotely. So there are people who insist that every computer needs to be encrypted. And if you have a desktop computer, I don't see any need to encrypt the hard drive. The downside of the encryption is the encryption can go south, your device can become corrupted, and then you can't access anything on it either. It becomes impossible to encrypt. I worked for a local bank years ago, and the bank president's computer was encrypted, and it was not BitLocker. This was going back a few years. It was a third-party product that was used to encrypt it, and it got corrupted, and he lost everything. So it was actually, he was working with another IT company at the time, and they formatted the drive, they reinstalled Windows in his software, and he started back with a blank slate. And I think it was about a year later, the same thing happened again, and he lost everything again. In my experience, BitLocker has been a little difficult a couple times, but I don't think I've had anyone who lost everything with it. It's still a pain, and there's just no reason to put that on a desktop computer. Last week, I had a customer whose office was broken into overnight, and they went through and kind of ransacked the place. Lots of nice computers, 6 or 8, small office, 6 or 8 nice computers there, new high-end desktop computers. You have a couple huge monitors, like 36-inch monitors, $600 or $700 monitors. The only thing the criminals took was a MacBook that was on somebody's desk. They will steal a laptop because you can't sell that stuff on a street corner. Hey, you want to buy a desktop? Nobody's going to do that. But you could sell somebody a laptop, $50. Here you go. Make sure your portable devices are encrypted. Don't worry about your desktops. For your Wi-Fi, make sure encryption is turned on. Every Wi-Fi device, every wireless router out there supports WPA2. That is from 20 years ago. There is a potential security risk with it, but the attacker has to be in the building, able to communicate with that Wi-Fi wireless router directly. Ideally, you want WPA3. So if your wireless system supports that, turn it on and use it. Probably all your devices will support it. I've got a really old iPad at home. I don't think it'll work on WPA3. And I do actually use it sometimes. And you may have an older device that doesn't support that, but pretty much everything from the last several years will support WPA3, and you should turn that on. Nearly every Wi-Fi router has options for using a really old protocol called Wireless Encryption Protocol, WEP. That is not secure at all. It was hacked years and years ago. Even I could probably hack it, and I don't do that. You also have the option almost always to put no security on, no encryption on it at all. Then no password is required to connect to your Wi-Fi. The things you're sending over your Wi-Fi are not being encrypted at all by the Wi-Fi. Let me pause for 1 second. If you're logged into your bank and you have an HTTPS connection, that's being encrypted on your computer before it's sent over the Wi-Fi to the bank and unencrypted at the bank. So even across the thin air in your facility, it's encrypted because it was encrypted on your computer. It's an encrypted communication. Same with a VPN connection. If you're connecting to an office remotely using a VPN, you're good. It's all encrypted. But for your everyday use, you really want to have that encrypted so that someone can't sit nearby and just watch everything you're doing. The other thing is it'll keep your neighbors from connecting to your Wi-Fi and using up all your internet, slowing you down. The wireless router is going to have a default password on it. You should change that if you haven't already. And you want to configure it, if it'll let you configure it so that configuration can't be changed from outside the building. It has to be done internally. Finally, something you should consider is security training. Criminals are sending emails that are designed to look legitimate. They are either trying to deliver a virus or malware to you as an attachment, or a link that if you click on, it's going to go to a website that infects your computer. Or they're doing something called phishing, where they're trying to capture your username and password for a site. You might get an email that says your Microsoft account has issues. Click here to log in and fix it. And when you click, it's going to take you to a website that looks like Microsoft's login page, but it's not. And when you type in your credentials, they're going to grab them. They're also doing that by text messaging now. Same exact thing. They call it smishing because it's SMS texting, where they send you a text, hey, click here and log in and fix this, and it's all fake. There are some really good training programs out there that will help you and your staff identify these fake emails, fake text messages. I highly recommend it. We use a product called InfoSec. The staff here at Cornerstone uses InfoSec training, and we actually send them fake phishing emails, and we see who here will click on it to open it, and then we tell their bosses and get them in trouble. And I think the training is good. It's designed to be somewhat entertaining, and it's factual, and it's good. I'll share a few things with you. Phishing attacks, when someone's trying to trick you with an email. When you open that email, the faster you act, the less you're going to think about it. So when you're looking at your emails or text messages, look out for anything that's like a threat of blackmail or something that's trying to make you emotional, make you sad, make you happy, whatever. They're trying to get you to see this and act. If you receive an email, especially one with an attachment that you weren't expecting, be suspicious about it. Take a moment and consider why did you get this and where did it come from? And I would recommend, if you're doubtful, pick up the phone and call the person who sent it or send them a text. Say, hey, did you just send me an invoice? Whatever it is. And if you have any doubts at all about something that's attached to an email, don't download it. Just don't. You can email the person back and get clarification or call them. Finally, if someone texts you or calls you, this is another thing criminals are doing. They'll call you on your cell phone and say, hey, this is Bob with the bank, and there's a problem with your account. Can you verify your account number for me? Never give people anything over the phone that's confidential, protected. If they called you or they texted you, don't respond to that. Hang up or pick up the phone and look up their main number and call and say, hey, I got this call. Is there really a problem in my account? And get to the bottom of it. That was a recommendation I just saw this morning. I thought that is good advice. All right, that's it. I'm going to stop talking.
Good. Okay, we got a lot of questions for you, Jeff.
Okay, I might know the answers.
So maybe we shall see. So a couple of just like notes. I didn't know if you wanted to touch on. One of the first comments was that this person has trend micro and they were difficult to communicate with. Not sure if that was if that's your experience with them as well.
Yeah, quite honestly, I'm having trouble communicating with everyone these days. I feel like every tech support group, every tech support department in the IT world is understaffed right now. Um, I sent an email or went on a website, opened a service ticket about a problem I was having recently, and it took 2 weeks to get a response. And I have had Trend Micro take a few days to get back to me about something. Unfortunately, I think that's just the tech support situation in this industry right now.
All right.
I,
We also
I'd be
had a
happy to I'd be happy to try to help if someone wanted to let me know, what the Trend Micro question was. I've been using it for at least 20 years, and it's a good product, works well, and I might know a little bit about it.
we also got a question about a different product, Sonic Firewall, if that's a good one.
Sonic Wall?
Sonic
Yeah,
Firewall.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sonic Wall was an independent company that got sold, and I think sold again, and now it's part of Dell, as far as I know. Maybe it's been sold again, it's not. But yeah, I think they make a pretty good product. I don't think it's as good as the Meraki firewalls. I don't know that it's updated continually 24/7 like that, fully managed like they are. But maybe, and it is good. It's a lot better than just whatever Spectrum delivered. I mean, not trying to pick on Spectrum, but it's going to have a lot more capability than that product.
All right. So another comment is that most of the insurance companies are requiring them to change their password every 60 days.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's
Questions.
nothing you can do about that. If they own the website and they're telling you got to change it, then you got to change it. But these are new recommendations that people never have to change it. In my mind, it probably ought to be somewhere in between, right? Maybe you should have to change it every year, or even every 2 years. It seems like it ought to be changed once in a while. But yeah, that really is the new recommendation. People never have to change it. But if when the carrier owns the website, they get to set the rules. You got to do it.
I got a question sort of the same breath. How do you encrypt portable devices, and how do you encrypt desktop hard drives?
Yeah, so in the notes, I didn't read you every slide, but like an Apple MacBook, even if it's a few years old, it's going to be encrypted. Apple does that automatically. iPhone as well. I think most of the newer Androids are also already encrypted. It will depend on the device, right? The Windows devices are not encrypted by default. So what I do, just you probably go through the settings. If you click on the start menu and click the little gear icon, that'll take you to the settings page in Windows 10 or 11. It's probably in there somewhere. You could probably search BitLocker. I go to the old school control panel, click on run, or just click on the start button and type control. It'll pop up control panel. There's an icon in there for BitLocker. And when you click it, it's pretty straightforward. It says it's disabled. Click here to enable. So you click it. It wants you to stick a USB drive in there. It'll save that key that you need to unencrypt the drive. It'll save it on your USB stick. And then it starts encrypting the drive. And it runs in the background. You can continue to use your computer. You can turn it off if you need to. While it's going, it'll pick up where it left off and finish encrypting it. Certain hard drives have encryption capabilities built into them, so you'll click that you want it encrypted. It'll spin for about 5 seconds and say you're encrypted because it was built in. All it had to do was activate it. If you encrypt your Windows device with BitLocker, you have to keep that key. It's huge, long numeric key. I think it's 25 numbers or 30. It's awful. But there are certain situations where you turn your computer on, it pops up and says, we need to verify this, enter your key. And you have to type in this huge long number. So you need to have it stored somewhere, not on your computer. You could put it in notes in your cell phone somewhere or something like that to be able to unencrypt it. Hopefully that'll never happen, but it can, it does from time to time, not often.
Okay. So that is all the questions that we have from the brokers, but I have a few questions of my own from what you discussed. So the first is, you mentioned that you're not a fan of the LastPass software, and just not keeping stuff on there in general. What do you recommend for actually keeping your passwords then?
You can put them in an Excel spreadsheet and then encrypt that. Put a password on that spreadsheet so nobody can just open it. That's not 100% secure, but that's not bad. I know folks who have a little notebook they keep in their desk drawer, and it's got all their passwords written down on paper, like the old days. And they're locking that up at night, and I think that's a great way to do it. I have something similar. I keep it on like a notepad type thing, but it's encrypted. I have to put in a password if I want to look up a password in that list, and that password's different than all the others. So I know you have to keep a list because different sites have different demands, but the idea is to just come up with about 4 passwords that you can remember. And you can write them down and put them in your little safe at home, or, lock it in a filing cabinet or something. But if you have just 4 different passwords that you're using for everything, you can probably remember all those and you won't have to go look them up.
Yeah, I know, I currently use LastPass and I'm questioning it now. Thank you, Jeff. But I know I have dozens of passwords on there, so it's difficult to keep track of all of them, and even just change them to one of the four.
LastPass generates those horrible random passwords, all these weird characters that don't make any sense. And it was all designed for security reasons, right? That was the recommendation before. Don't use password for your password, or your, your kid's name or whatever. But the recommendations have changed, and I think for the better. What they're saying now is put multiple words together in a phrase that you can remember, that has some meaning to you, that other people aren't going to just guess. And with a longer password, it's very hard for the thing to be cracked by a computer, where they just try password after password after password until they find one that works. The longer it is, that instead of taking a few hours, it takes months if it's long enough.
My next question for you was how you feel about hotspots when using the Wi-Fi, or when you can't use the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't think a hotspot's a problem. That's a good question. I don't know what kind of security is active on a hotspot. I would assume it's using that WPA encryption that I talked about. That's a good question. Apple's good about security. So if you've got an iPhone and it's got a hotspot, I bet you $1 it's going to be encrypted. It's perfectly safe to use. If you have an Android, it might be. There might be a setting in there. I'll look into it for you, Jess. I'll let you know.
Thanks. You don't do enough for me already, so this is perfect. And then my last question, and just remember, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the question box for Jeff, and we will get through those. But my last question for you was if you have any cloud storage recommendations for like storing your documents and everything. I know you're not a fan of like Google Drive, but what would you recommend that people do if they have to share documents between team members?
Good question.
I come in with the good ones today.
Yeah. Well, just so folks know, management at Cornerstone made the decision years ago to block cloud storage because we don't want, let's call it accidentally, we don't want someone to accidentally, a staff member to accidentally upload some protected health information to something like Google Drive. The problem is there's no way to block. If we could block just uploading, that would be fine. We can't do that. These cloud storage systems are not set up that way. So when someone is trying to send something to Cornerstone and they store it on Google Drive or OneDrive, we can't download it here. What we would request is that it be sent through secure email as an attachment. And if a broker doesn't have a secure email solution already, they can use Cornerstone's secure email system to send something that way. If you're a broker and you're trying to send something securely, to a customer, that's where it's going to get the most difficult. I think Dropbox is probably decent. We had an issue where some criminal put a virus in Dropbox and sent people a link, and they were able to download it and infect their computer. So I wish they had better virus checking. There's also Box.com, which is another product like that. There's ShareFile. I think those are all. I work with a small legal firm. I don't do a ton of work for them, but they use ShareFile to share legal documents, sharefile.com. There are some out there that are decent. Right now, I have a client who uses Microsoft 365, and some criminal was able to duplicate their administrator login. One of their administrators had logged in and they duplicated that, and they were able to go into their Microsoft 365 account and create a new email address for themselves. And then they used that email address to send a fake wire transfer request to a lawyer in California requesting $31,000 be transferred to their account. Luckily, it didn't go through. But there are some real security concerns right now, today, with Microsoft and with Microsoft 365 and with Google. So I just, again, I personally would be really reluctant to store any protected health information in a cloud system.
Sorry, I was muted. The one that you mentioned that might be a good option would be ShareFile.
Yeah, I think they do a good job. There's Dropbox, there's Box.com. I know HP partnered with Box.com a few years back. I guess they're still around. They're still, to me, that says something. If Hewlett Packard trusts them, then they're probably a good company.
All right. Well, I put all of Jeff's recommendations in the chat. So the Cisco Meraki, the Trend Micro, and then a link to ShareFile if you want to look that up and do some research on that yourself. Those are all in the chat for you guys if you want to look those up. We also got a question about what secure email service Cornerstone does use, and we use Zix. Jeff, if you want to talk more about that, I'm not sure the specifics on that, but that is the system that we use.
Yeah, Zix, Zix.com. They've been around for a long time. Very secure system. I would recommend it. They have an agent for that can be they have an add-in. I'm sorry, they have an add-in for Outlook that if you sign up for their service, then you can click a button in Outlook and you can send a secure email. And if the recipient's mail server can handle encryption, it'll just be delivered directly to them, but it'll be encrypted all the way across the internet, right? From the time it leaves your computer to the time it gets inside the recipient's mail server. If the recipient doesn't have encryption capabilities, then they'll store that email on a secure website, and then they'll send a notice to the recipient, hey, you have a secure email waiting, click here to retrieve it. And then that person will have to log into that secure website to get that email. So either way, you're getting the message to them securely.
We're going to just do this one last question here. We're running out of time here. But is my Chromebook automatically encrypted? It's about 3 years old, HP Chromebook.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of Chromebooks. They're really restricted. Can only do a certain amount of things with them. My kids have them for school, but I don't know the answer to that. Probably be something I have to search up on the internet, I guess. I don't know.
All right. And they said okay to that.
Sorry, I just don't know.
with a smiley face. All right. I think that's all the time that we have for questions. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to send them over to me, or I'm going to allow Jeff to give permission if you want to send them directly to him as well. But I will put my information on the screen again if you just give me 1 second to remember how to do that. All right, here we go. I'm sure there was an easier way to do this, but this is the way that Jessica has decided to do it. Okay. So here's my information on the screen. If you have any additional questions for Jeff about securing your data, please feel free to email me and I will forward those over. This presentation is recorded as well, so it will be on Cornerstone's YouTube channel as well as the webinar series page on the Resource Center. So look out for a follow-up email that I will send over, and I'll also include links to his recommendations in that email as well, if you'd like to check those out. And thank you all for joining today. Thank you to Jeff for offering your expertise and freaking us out a little bit about the state of our technology. And thank you all. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everyone.